Hey guys, welcome to the channel and another video. Today I'm going to be watching Pride and Prejudice by Joe Wright, starring Kiera Knightley and Matthew Macfayden. Although I'm not familiar with this director or his work, I'm a fan of Kiera Knightley, especially her early pirate films and even Bend It Like Beckham, which I watched in my teens. But more recently, I'm a huge fan of Matthew Macfayden's work, especially in HBO's Succession. Succession is my favorite show on TV right now, and it's easily one of the best written shows I've seen in a long time. Macfayden's Tom Wamsgans is probably my favorite character in the entire show, so if you haven't watched Succession yet, I highly recommend it. It's just excellent. Okay, on to Pride and Prejudice. I've always known about Jane Austen's classic novel, and I know there have been so many different types of adaptations of this work for almost 200 years now, but I never gave it a chance. Maybe because it's a romantic drama, and I guess I wasn't into that when I was younger. I know it's stupid, but I'm older now, and I want to know what this classic is all about. I don't know anything about the plot or story, but from the title, I'm guessing it has something to do with Pride and Prejudice. Anyways, I chose to review this particular version for 3 reasons. Number 1, it was recommended by my sister. Number 2, I found out that Matthew Macfayden is starring in it. And number 3, I heard that it won, or at least it was nominated for a bunch of Oscars, so there's that. But before we get into it, to help support the channel, I have a Patreon page for full-length reviews and reactions to this movie and over 170 movies, 2 TV shows, early access and weekly polls for what to watch next. You'll need your own copy to watch along. The link's in the description below, by the way. Please consider being a patron. Please subscribe to the channel. Click that bell icon for instant notifications. Do check out my other videos. Like if you liked this video, dislike it if you didn't. With all that being said, let's get started. Pride and Prejudice, Wright, Knightley, Macfayden. Let's go. Pride and Prejudice. We're hearing classical music with a sunrise. Yeah, okay, it's confirmed now. It's a period piece. So I'm guessing it's set somewhere in the 1800s, I'm guessing. Somebody's actually playing the music. It's the diegetic noises. Rosamund Pike! Holy crap, she's a big actor now. And I just noticed this is like one continuous shot, which is very impressive.
Katie, what have I told you about listening at the door?
Dude, that's Carey Mulligan and Jenna Malone. Wow, okay.
For we may not visit if you do not, as you well know, Mr. Bennet. Listening, you never listen.
They're so formal.
Papa, is he amiable?
Is that Tulala Riley in the background? I think she was married to Elon Musk. It is. Oh, she's so young here.
So will he come to the ball tomorrow, Papa?
I believe so.
Oh, okay. They're talking about marriage. I don't know whether they're wealthy or not because that does look like a big house. We'll find out. Wow, I love the set design and the costume work already. Sometimes I wish I was transported back into these older times. Then I realized that they didn't have modern medicine or anything, so I would have probably died. Must be someone important.
That is his good friend, Mr. Darcy.
Mr. Darcy! Okay, Matthew Macfayden. I guess the Bennet family is comfortable, but they're not wealthy like Mr. Darcy's family.
It is a pleasure. I have 2 others, but they're already dancing.
I'm delighted to make your acquaintance.
How do you like it here in Hertfordshire, Mr. Bingley?
Very much.
Will you dance, Mr. Darcy?
Not if I can help it.
Ouch. Not a very good start to the relationship.
She is the most beautiful creature I have ever beheld. But her sister Elizabeth is very agreeable.
Perfectly tolerable, I dare say. Not handsome enough to tempt me.
Ouch. I'm assuming Lizzie is Elizabeth. I think Mr. Darcy is a little prejudiced.
If he liked you, you'd have to talk to him.
I wouldn't dance with him for all of Derbyshire, let alone the miserable half.
Good for you. I wonder if Darcy sees the Bennett family as beneath his own stature? I think so.
It's a splendid dancer, is she not?
So what do you recommend to encourage affection?
Dancing. Even if one's partner is barely tolerable.
Ouch! That was well played, Liz. I love how she's proud of herself, but she's still nervous. Really good acting from both Macfayden and Knightley here.
Mr. Bingley is just what a young man ought to be. Do you really believe he liked me, Lizzie?
Jane, he danced with you most of the night and stared at you for the rest of it.
Oh, I still can't believe what he said about you.
Mr. Darcy, I'd more easily forgive his vanity had he not wounded mine. But no matter, I doubt we shall ever speak again.
I'm also enjoying the camera work of this movie. I mean, the cinematography is fine, but I love the smooth flowing camera. It's almost like the camera itself is very choreographed and well thought out.
It is from Caroline Bingley. She has invited me to dine with her. Can I take the carriage?
Certainly not. She'll go on horseback.
Okay.
Horseback?
I shall have to stay the night, exactly as I predicted.
Good Lord, Miss Elizabeth, did you walk here?
I did.
Okay, they're vastly more wealthy.
I'm so sorry. How is my sister?
She's upstairs.
Don't worry, I don't know who is more pleased at your being here, Mamma or Mr. Bingley.
How are Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy related? The officers are here, and the girls are excited. Oh no, that's a disappointment.
I never heard of a young lady, but people say she is accomplished.
The word is indeed applied too liberally. I cannot boast of knowing more than half a dozen women in all my acquaintance that are truly accomplished.
Nor I, to be sure. Goodness, you must comprehend a great deal in the eye.
I love how Elizabeth is provoking him very subtly.
Either you are in each other's confidence and you have secret affairs to discuss, or you are conscious that your figures appear to the greatest advantage by walking.
So superficial.
If the second, I can admire you much better from here.
You're too proud, Mr. Darcy. And would you consider pride a fault or a virtue?
That I couldn't say.
Pride.
My good opinion, once lost, is lost forever.
So absolute with his opinions.
Oh dear, I cannot tease you about that. What a shame, for I dearly love to laugh.
So I'm guessing he represents pride. That would make her prejudice somehow?
Oh, I do hope you intend to stay here, Mr. Bingley.
Absolutely. I find the country very diverting. Don't you agree, Darcy?
I find it perfectly adequate.
Everything's adequate for him. He's never impressed.
Mr. Darcy?
Miss Bennet?
There she is.
Mr. Bingley, I don't know how to thank you.
You are welcome.
Oh, she recovered. Okay.
Thank you for your stimulating company. It has been most instructive.
Not at all. Pleasure is all mine.
At least they have a mutual respect for each other. Okay. What was the hand thing about? I think there's a bit of prejudice in him too.
His name is Mr. Collins. He's the dreaded cousin.
Who's to inherit?
Indeed, everything, apparently.
Even my piano store belongs to Mr. Collins.
But why?
Because the estate passes directly to him and not to us poor females.
Oh, man. So this Mr. Collins inherits the Bennett house? I know that actor, I just don't know his name. He's pretty good. Looks like nobody likes him, obviously, because there are like 5 girls and they can't inherit anything.
I have to inform you that the eldest Miss Bennet has captured my special attention.
Jane?
Oh, Mr. Collins. Miss Bennet is very soon to be engaged.
Exactly.
Engaged.
Makes you despair at the entire sex.
Yours.
Dude, I know this actor. He's Rupert Friend.
What do your superiors do with you?
Ignore me. I'm of next to no importance, so it's easily done.
Yeah, I like him. At least he's sure of himself.
Mr. Bingley! Mr. Bingley!
I was just on my way to your house.
Dude, that Darcy man, he doesn't smile even for a second.
Lydia, you can't invite people to other people's balls.
Oh? Was there some eye-to-eye conversation between Mr. Darcy and Mr. Wickham for Liz?
Indeed, I've been connected with his family since infancy.
I must ask, Mr. Wickham, what is the manner of your disapproval of Mr. Darcy?
My father managed his estate.
Oh, it's not about Elizabeth. I was wrong.
His father treated me like a second son. His father bequeathed me the rectory in his estate. He knew I had my heart set on joining the church. But Darcy ignored his wishes and gave the living to another man.
Oh.
Jealousy.
How cruel.
So now I'm a poor foot soldier, too lowly even to be noticed.
That's personal.
I'm so pleased you're here.
So am I.
It's best for her family.
Again, the camera work is just impeccable. How smoothly they're following the characters.
Apparently your Mr. Wickham has been called on some business to town.
Oh, Mr. Darcy's here.
May I have the next dance, Miss Elizabeth?
And this time he's asking her.
Did I just agree to dance with Mr. Darcy?
I dare say you will find him very amiable, is he?
It would be most inconvenient since I've sworn to loathe him for all eternity.
Well, after what he's done to Mr. Wickham. But then again, they had a conversation about dancing earlier.
You talk as a rule while dancing?
No. No, I prefer to be unsociable and taciturn.
Mr. Wickham is blessed with such happy manners. He is sure of making friends. Whether he's capable of retaining them is less certain.
He's been so unfortunate as to lose your friendship.
They're talking about Wickham already.
Why do you ask such a question?
To make out your character, Mr. Darcy.
And what have you discovered?
Very little.
What a beautiful shot. And very impressive dance choreography. So well thought out, and the music, it all works so well together. I'm enjoying this film more than I thought. Wow. That was very good visual storytelling. It's almost like everybody else disappeared and they were actually concentrating on each other.
Really likes her enormously, but might not do more if she does not help him on.
But she's just shy and modest.
He does not know her character as we do. She should move fast, snap him up.
The only weakness so far I can think of is that there are so many characters and names, I just can't remember all of them. Trying to get attention again. It's hilarious.
Mrs. Bennet, I was hoping, if it would not trouble you, that I might solicit a private audience with Miss Elizabeth in the course of the morning.
That's pretty straightforward.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure my attentions have been too marked to be mistaken. Almost as soon as I entered the house, I singled you out as the companion of my future life.
Oh no. Not like this.
I am honoured by your proposal, but I regret that I must decline it.
Go back now and say you've changed your mind.
No.
Your mother will never see you again if you do not marry Mr. Collins, and I will never see you again if you do.
Whoa!
Thank you.
I like him. At least he's supportive.
Jane.
Oh no! Dude, he's leaving. Looks like Mr. Darcy's leaving too.
Mr. Darcy is impatient to see his sister, and we are scarcely less eager to meet her again.
Caroline sees that her brother is in love with you and is taking him off to persuade him otherwise.
Right. She sees through everything.
It's far more likely that he does not love me and never has.
He loves you, Jane. Do not give up.
I've come here to tell you the news. Mr. Collins and I are engaged.
Dude!
He's ridiculous.
Oh, hush. Not all of us can afford to be romantic.
Oh, she's just being practical.
I'm 27 years old.
I guess this movie does give a lot to think about. I really like these moments of downtime in the movie with these beautiful camera work and cinematography and music.
Welcome to our humble abode.
We've received an invitation to visit Rosings this evening from Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
How wonderful.
Do not make yourself uneasy, my dear cousin, about your apparel.
Just put on whatever you've brought that's best.
Dude. I know her.
So you are Elizabeth Bennet.
Mr. Darcy's here.
Mr. Darcy?
Miss Elizabeth, I'm a guest here.
Has your governess left you?
We never had a governess.
No governess.
Look at her performance. She's like so surprised.
But I think it would be very hard on younger sisters not to have their share of amusement because the elder is still unmarried. It would hardly encourage sisterly affection.
Strong opinions.
Pray, what is your age?
With 3 younger sisters grown up, your ladyship can hardly expect me to own to it.
Yeah, she's clearly insulted.
What was my friend like in Hertfordshire?
The first time I saw him at the assembly, he danced with nobody at all. Even though gentlemen were scarce and there was more than one young lady sitting down without a partner.
I knew nobody beyond my own party.
Oh, and nobody can be introduced in a ballroom.
Fitzwilliam, I need you.
I love their verbal sparring. Nothing offensive is being said.
Do not have the talent of conversing easily with people I have never met before.
Oh.
You should take your aunt's advice and practice.
See what I mean? Their chemistry is just excellent, even though they're not seeing eye to eye. Yeah, and I love how the framing works in this movie. I have to look up the cinematographer. Oh?
Mr. Darcy, shall I call for some tea?
No, thank you. Good day, Miss Elizabeth. It's been a pleasure.
He changed his mind about something. The camera work on Mr. Darcy's face in this scene, it was very erratic.
He saved the man from an imprudent marriage.
Who was the man?
His closest friend, Charles Bingley.
Oh?
Did Mr. Darcy give a reason for this interference?
That's Jane.
There were apparently strong objections to the lady. I think it was a family that was considered unsuitable.
No. She'll have a hard time getting over it. So it was Darcy who separated... Oh man, it was Darcy who separated Jane.
Miss Elizabeth, I love you.
There it is. He said it.
Most ardently.
Most ardently. Aw.
I appreciate the struggle you have been through, and I am very sorry to have caused you pain. Believe me, it was unconsciously done.
That's a no.
Do you think that anything might tempt me to accept a man who has ruined, perhaps forever, the happiness of a most beloved sister?
Oh.
You separated a young couple who loved each other, exposing your friend to the centre of the world for caprice, and my sister to its derision for disappointed hopes.
Yeah.
I watched them most carefully and realised his attachment was deeper than hers.
That's because she's shy.
It was made perfectly clear that an advantageous marriage...
Did my sister give that impression?
No! It was the lack of propriety shown by your mother, your 3 younger sisters, even on occasion your father.
Perfectly timed thunder.
And what about Mr. Wickham?
You take an eager interest in that gentleman's
He
concerns.
told me of his misfortunes.
Oh, yes, his misfortunes have been very great indeed.
From the first moment I met you, your arrogance and conceit, your selfish disdain for the feelings of others, made me realise that you were the last man in the world I could ever be prevailed upon to marry.
Ouch. I mean, they're both right in a way. He's full of prejudice and she's full of pride. Ah, what a scene. Probably the best scene in the entire film so far. I can see why this is regarded as a classic. There's so much depth. Wow. He's here again, I think.
I came to leave you this.
A letter. And he's gone.
My father loved Mr. Wickham as a son. He demanded the value of the living which he was given, and which he gambled away within weeks.
Oh.
He then wrote demanding more money, which I refused. He came back to see us last summer, at which point he declared passionate love for my sister, whom he tried to persuade to elope with him. She is to inherit £30,000.
Oh, that's not a good look for Wickham.
When it was made clear he would never receive a penny of that inheritance, he disappeared. She was 15 years old.
Aw. That letter was really heartfelt.
Lydia's been invited to go to Brighton with the Forsters.
Little sea bathing would set me up very nicely. I should dine with the officers every night.
Please, Papa, don't let her go.
I saw Mr. Darcy when I was at Rosings. Did he mention Mr. Bingley?
Oh.
No.
Oh. Yeah, she's not telling her. Wow. This looks like a painting.
Where exactly are we? I think we're quite close to Pemberley.
Pemberley.
Mr. Darcy's home.
The production end has been so good. And this is Mr. Darcy's home? No wonder he's full of prejudice. Even she's laughing. I think she understands on some level. Is that real?
Do you not think him a handsome man, miss?
Yes, I dare say he is.
He is growing on her. Especially the honesty in that letter. That really got through to her. Is that the little sister? Oh, it is. And he's here.
Miss Elizabeth!
I thought you were in London.
No.
Well, obviously.
Tomorrow we go to Matlock.
Tomorrow?
They said that the house was open for visitors. I had no idea.
I already think that he's changed a lot. He's looking past or overcoming his prejudice.
He particularly wants you to meet his sister.
Yeah, okay, that's the excuse Mr. Darcy's using.
Miss Elizabeth!
My sister, Miss Georgiana.
My brother has told me so much about you. I feel as if we are friends already.
Your unfortunate brother once had to put up with my playing for a whole evening.
But he says you play so well.
Yeah, the sister can see everything. Whoa, what? I mean, she did have a letter in her hand.
Lydia has run away with Mr. Wickham.
This is my fault. If only I had exposed Wickham when I should.
No, this is my fault.
Such flutterings and spasms all over me.
Great performance from her too.
They're married. They will be if Father will settle £100 a year on her. That is Wickham's condition. £100?
God knows how much your uncle must have laid on that wretched man.
Wickham's a fool if he accepts less than £10,000.
10,000? Heaven forbid.
And tell the servants they will have a bowl of punch.
Look at the change in her demeanor.
Mr. Darcy was at your wedding.
He was the one that discovered us. He paid for the wedding.
Oh? That changed something in her.
When I married your father, there didn't seem to be enough hours in the day.
Did you hear the news, madam? Mr. Bingley is returning to Netherfield.
Mr. Bingley? Why he thinks we should be interested, I've no idea.
Oh, really, Mrs. Bennet?
Mr. Bingley!
Mr. Bingley?
Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley, ma'am.
Nice. They clean up real fast.
You hope to stay long in the country, Mr. Bingley?
Just a few weeks. It's been very pleasant to see you all again. We were going to walk in, and she was going to say, sit down now. No. So, I feel...
Oh man, I love how Bingley's so unsure of himself.
Miss Bennet.
Mr. Bingley.
They're role-playing. It's hilarious.
I think you are in great danger of making him as much in love with you as ever.
I know this is all very untoward, but I would like to request the privilege of speaking to Miss Bennet.
Everybody to the kitchen.
I love Mrs. Bennet. She's like the best. She can't believe it.
Thank the Lord for that. I thought it would never happen.
Oh. Not only did Mr. Darcy pay for Lydia's wedding, but he set up Bingley with Jane again. If he's not growing on her, I don't see what else he could do at this point.
Do you know he was totally ignorant of my being in town in the spring?
How did he account for it?
He thought me indifferent.
Lady Catherine.
Oh! Lady Catherine's here?
A report of a most alarming nature has reached me that you intend to be united with my nephew, Mr. Darcy.
If you believed it to be impossible, I wonder you took the trouble of coming so far.
Mr. Darcy is engaged to my daughter. Now what have you to say?
Only this, if that is the case, you can have no reason to suppose he would make an offer to me.
You selfish girl.
Oh.
Now tell me once and for all, are you engaged to him?
What an amazing actress. I hate her, but she's an amazing actress. I mean, her character.
I must ask you to leave immediately.
Again, I like the fact that the director is holding this shot for so long. Dude, he's here again. He doesn't look as prim and proper here. I guess he took his ego down a notch, which is a good thing.
I couldn't sleep.
Nor I.
After what you have done for Lydia, and I suspect for Jane also, it is I who should be making amends.
Surely you must know it was all for you.
He's being straightforward.
You have bewitched me, body and soul, and I love you. I never wish to be parted from you from this day on.
Oh.
Well then.
There you go. What a beautiful shot. All this build-up was actually worth it. Her sisters must be super surprised at the news because last they knew, she hated Mr. Darcy.
Shut the door, please, Elizabeth. I thought you hated the man.
No, Papa.
Yeah.
I love him. He's not proud. I was wrong. I was entirely wrong about him.
Ah, she's actually overcoming her pride.
What has he done?
I thought she didn't like him.
So did I, so did we all.
You mustn't tell anyone. He wouldn't want it. He and I are so similar. We're both so stubborn.
You really do love him, don't you?
What a great scene.
Very much.
Great performances by both these actors, honestly.
I heartily give my consent.
How are you this evening, my dear?
Again, I love the lighting in this scene. It's so intimate. Aww. I think the director, he's earned this scene. It really works. Oh, and it ends here? What a beautiful film. From what I just saw, I really enjoyed the movie. Oh, okay. I took some time to collect my thoughts. First off, that was a great movie. I really enjoyed my time with it. I thought Joe Wright did a very good job in conveying a sense of intimacy throughout the film. I'd considered the other strengths to be the script, obviously, the social commentary and differences in class and wealth, the camera work, some of the cinematography, and the excellent music, the costumes, the sets, and of course, the consistency in performances by this all-star cast. The main weakness for my first viewing was probably trying to follow the huge number of characters, their names, and their detailed complexities, for lack of a better word. I'm sure that'll get easier to follow with repeated viewings, which I will do. Let's start with the directing by Joe Wright and the screenplay by Deborah Magok. Please correct me if my pronunciation is wrong. I'm surely butchering her name. I know this movie was based on Jane Austen's novel of the same name. It's considered a timeless classic, and although I haven't read the book, I'm sure the adaptation here was relatively faithful. If it wasn't, and the screenplay writer took some creative liberties, do let me know how it differs in the comments below. The director kept the pacing of the story deliberately slow and kept it very dialogue heavy, which went fairly well with the tone of the movie. I'm sure everyone is already familiar with the plot, so there's no point recapping the entire story here. So let's talk about some of the finer points of the movie that I found intriguing. I really love the dynamic between these five sisters, apart from the two main characters, Darcy and Elizabeth. Weirdly, my favorite characters were Mr. and Mrs. Bennet. Both of them complemented each other so well, and they were expertly played by Donald Sutherland and Brenda Blethyn. Again, please correct me if my pronunciation is wrong. It was hilarious how Mrs. Bennet was her only worry in life was try and marry off her daughters, and how different Mr. Bennet was, how easygoing and supporting he was of her daughters, at least for the most part, except for the youngest daughter, Lydia. That's a whole different story. I guess he's a bit pragmatic. There's a lot to think about there. Another interesting aspect of the movie was the multiple layers of wealth we saw. There were peasants who were poor. There were the Bennets who were relatively comfortable. There was Mr. Bingley who was, I'd say, rich, and finally there was Mr. Darcy or Lady Catherine, who were insanely wealthy. I really enjoyed seeing the interactions between these multiple levels of wealth. To To the average peasant, they might all seem rich, but clearly there are levels to this game. That was interesting. There were also quite a few twists and turns, like with Mr. Wickham's character. I wonder how that worked out in the future, because he clearly wasn't portrayed as the most moral or the best character, I guess. There was also the bumbling and robotic Mr. Collins. He was hilarious to watch, but on a more serious note, it was interesting to see how women were looked upon in that society almost as mere objects to be married off. They couldn't even inherit their father's property. That is something to think about. Moving on to the main couple themselves, Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth. I absolutely loved their character transformations. Both these characters, they were stubborn at the beginning and very hard to read. And I think that was a good thing, as I found it very rewarding to see their changes, their demeanor, to see them unfold as characters on screen as they slowly fell in love. Although I think Elizabeth was meant to represent pride and Mr. Darcy prejudice, I do think that both of them were a little prideful and prejudiced to some extent. The performances by both Kiera Knightley and Matthew Macfayden were beyond excellent. Their on-screen chemistry was palpable, and the way they came together at the end was very well earned by the director. I really felt like the ending was incredibly satisfying, except I guess I wanted to see the reactions from the rest of the sisters. They were so surprised that Liz actually liked Darcy, because they were under the impression that they hated each other. I would have probably liked to see Mrs. Bennet's reaction to her daughter getting married to one of the richest men around. She probably must have... Oh man, okay. There isn't any point talking about all these famous actors and their individual performances, except the fact that I loved the dynamic between this ensemble cast. Overall, the writing, directing, and acting were really good. What was even better than the directing was the camera work and the cinematography. The calm, smooth flowing camera movement really worked well with the time period this movie was set in. I loved how the cinematographer used slow zooms and tracking shots to emphasize something important, or how he used symmetry in more of the intimate shots. The use of light, especially candlelight in the darker scenes, that was excellent. And I really admire a director who can hold a shot for a long time. That goes to show that he wasn't scared of modern audiences' short attention spans. It also helped pace the movie really well. At 2 hours, I didn't think it was very slow or very fast. Even though it was dialogue heavy, I wasn't bored for a second. The slow points in the movie go a long way in making the audience think about the characters, and it also gives them time to breathe and reflect, if that makes any sense. The score of this movie, it was top-notch, certainly a highlight for me. The classical piano music perfectly complemented the tone and society shown in the film. I loved how the music was diegetic and non-diegetic at times. The piano work, I mean, it almost was flowing in and out of that state, almost like a bridge between the audience and characters. So great work there. Finally, the sets and costumes, they were impeccable. You could really tell just by what the character was wearing, their social standing, and almost their individual characteristics. I know I'm not supposed to be judgy here or be prejudiced, but I hope you understand or know what I mean. The sets were gorgeous, and I'm sure a lot of these shots, they were actually done on location. The open fields to the cliffs to the beautiful mansions and manors, they were all great. I have talked about my criticism, my only small criticism, about the fact that I had a little hard time in following all these names, especially at the beginning of the movie. Overall, Pride and Prejudice is a classic movie in the making. It's already a classic novel, but the adaptation here was excellent. The performances by the entire star-studded cast, especially Knightley and Macfayden, were superb. The cinematography, camera work, and music, they were outstanding, but more importantly, the story itself, overcoming pride and prejudice, that was just wonderful to watch. Thank you so much for the suggestion, guys, and I highly, highly recommend this movie. Anyways, thank you for watching. I have a Patreon page. Consider being a patron. Subscribe to the channel. Click that bell icon for instant notifications. Do check out my other videos. Like if you like this video, dislike it if you didn't. I will see you in the next one. Bye.